Panharmonicon presents a podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Panharmonicon presents a podcast. Thank you guys for being here week in, week out. If you can for us, just please remember to like, share, subscribe. Need more subscribers. We are getting there, but we'd really like to see more of you guys here. And if you have anything that you want to see us go over, anything that you think about, especially with today's episode, feel free to leave a comment. And we go through our comments, we reply to them. We're looking for feedback, and we'd love to get yours. Yeah. And today's episode, if you have not read the title, is one of my favorite movies of the early close to mid 2000s. That would be Stephen Chow's Kung Fu Hustle. I don't know about you. Actually, I do know about you. And
you don't know me.
We both saw Shaolin Soccer, I believe, at the same time. First time around.
Yeah. And we saw this one.
And then we saw Kung Fu Hustle.
Yeah. And I don't know why Burger King stands out to me very, very much, but I think we maybe went to Burger King before. I think it was after track meet.
It was after track meet.
After track meet, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, we're doing Kung Fu Hustle. Stephen Chow's, I don't think it's his second movie overall, but it is his second movie to reach the shores of America.
Wow.
And it is his first movie, I believe, that actually utilizes a production from I guess I would say like an American company, and that it was put out by Columbia.
Oh, okay.
But at the time, I think at the time they were just TriStar before they were picked up by Columbia. Either way, they're a Sony company, which is why I kind of say American, because technically Sony is a Japanese company. Not technically, they are a Japanese company, and they own Columbia TriStar, and also have a Columbia like East Asia. But in this case, I think it was just TriStar, like the American company. So something that I read about it was that unlike Shaolin Soccer and his movies before, this one he had to do a lot of like altering to his like scripts. He had to do multiple revisions before they finally like greenlit one, so that they would give him money for production.
Oh, okay. Well, did they tell you why they needed so many revisions? Like, what were they looking for?
Something more like, I guess, appealing to like Westerners, which is like, I would think that was weird because of Shaolin Soccer, but I also don't really know how big Shaolin Soccer really was, because we didn't watch it in theaters.
We didn't. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
I don't know if people even knew about it before it came out, because that wasn't one of its like marketing standpoints. And I remember because I remember seeing like the trailer when it came out. I was like, oh man, he's making it in a movie. That's great. For most people, that's probably like, I don't know who this is, but this looks like a like a crazy movie.
Yeah.
So in the end, he just had to just make it appeal to us. Me and you, we would have accepted it anyway, but for most people who didn't end up seeing it, yeah.
I always find that so fascinating. Just like the difference in taste and that being a barrier, that you can't just like let that wall be torn down for a little bit and just accept, oh, this is like a different culture. This is kind of what they, and just let yourself bleed into it.
Mm-hmm. I think smaller productions are allowed, that kind of like the avant-garde, the like, this was a small French film, or this is a small film out of India, and they just allow it to happen. And I think even nowadays, with the like RRR and stuff like that, you are starting to see more of that just being allowed. Like, the way you do things is the way we will allow it. I think Netflix would have 100% allowed Stephen Chow to just do whatever he wanted, and been like, yeah, works for us.
Yeah.
But revisions or not, it was successful. Came out in September of 2004. Had a budget of $20 million. Its global box office was $105 million. So,
damn. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really nice. So when did it reach the States? I feel like it was maybe 2005 though when we would have seen it. So was it released in 2004 just overseas and then?
I actually believe it was released here first and then
what?
Came out overseas.
But I remember vividly going there with you guys after a track meet, and we would not have had one in September. Like we would have.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And I guess I mean like I don't think it released first in China. I think it might have released internationally before it released in China.
Interesting. Okay.
Which you would think wouldn't be the case, but yeah, it released here in September 14th, and then it released in December in China.
Okay.
Enough about the money it made and when it came out. What did you think about your rewatch of Kung Fu Hustle?
Oh man, it's one of those films where I enjoyed just as much upon every rewatch, and I always feel like I just noticed something a little bit different, or appreciate something a little bit more that I saw before. It's there. You know how there's sometimes those films where maybe there's like a lot of adrenaline, if you know what I mean, where you're so hyped coming out of that movie, and then you see it again, and you're like, well, and then every rewatch, it just kind of gets a little bit worse.
Oh yeah, I can 100%. When we saw X-Men: The Last Stand, I defended that movie the instant we got out of it.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think you were there. I was with Avi and some friends, and they immediately ragged on it. And I was like, no, you got to understand. It was just like this, and it was like this in the comics and everything. It kind of made sense in a lot of places. And it's like, yeah, you know, I mean, Cyclops didn't get, you know, he didn't get the best of fair use or anything like that. That was before I knew the whole thing
with Superman Returns.
Yeah. So I was defending it, and then like that next day, I thought about it, and I was like, you know, maybe there are some things. And then I rewatched it, like I think later when it came out on DVD. It's trash. They were right. What was I thinking? Oh, and each time I've somehow been forced to see it since. I was like, nope.
Yeah.
This movie's horrible.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this before, and not trying to spend, I guess, too much time on the topic, but we've talked about No Way Home, where there was so much, I think my initial watch of No Way Home, where it was so much nostalgia, and that feeling, that amazing feeling of seeing all three of them come together in an event, in a story that you didn't think would ever happen. And then I rewatched, I'm like, oh, it's still enjoyable. Then I rewatched it again, I'm like, well, and then I rewatched it again, and I just realized there's just like certain elements that it is, to a degree, almost solely driven by a nostalgia factor. It's not to say that there aren't any good elements. I mean, there are good elements of it, but I think as far as, you know, villains and whatnot and how they developed, that's oftentimes where I feel a little bit is I need that. But Kung Fu Hustle,
that is for another episode.
Look
forward to our Spider-Man No Way Home episode, because first time I'm hearing some of these things, and we got some differences.
Really? I thought we talked about that before.
No, not that one.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. I
So I will, because I know you're probably about to ask, I'm gonna do a quick synopsis on the movie, and I'm surprised because I thought it was different than what the synopsis ultimately ended up being, which is that the movie is set in 1940s Shanghai. For some reason, I thought it was set earlier than that, but it's set in 1940 Shanghai. Petty crooks Sing and Bone aspire to join the notorious Axe Gang, led by the cold-blooded killer Brother Sun. The pair visit a rundown slum known as Pigsty Alley to extort the residents by pretending to be Axe members. Sing's actions eventually attract the attention of the real gang, who confront the villagers. Gang reinforcements arrive, but they are all quickly dealt with by three of the slum's tenants, Cooley, Taylor, and Donut, who are actually kung fu masters. Due to fear of retaliation, the landlords kick the three out, only for them to be attacked by two hitmen sent by the X Gang, who are able to eventually kill the three masters, only to be confronted by two more masters, the landlords themselves. Singh is brought in by the gang after they find out his ability to easily pick locks, and he is sent to free the number one martial artist in assassin, the Beast. Once freed, the Beast attacks the Landlords and is interrupted by Singh, who decides to change sides, and is almost killed by the Beast in return. Once healed, it is found that Singh is a once-in-a-lifetime martial arts genius, whose chi flow is cleared after being reset by the beating from the Beast. Defending the slum complex and defeating the Beast, Singh goes on to live a better life away from petty crime. Now, I thought it was set in like 1920s.
Yeah.
Which I would have made more sense to me because it's got that like possibly still being like occupied feel to it. But it's not. It's set, it's set later. I guess technically it. Now, granted, it's not like it's set in like fictional, like in reality. It is a very fictional story. So as such, it's set in a time where technically China would have been in the war, especially during this time because it would have been the War of the Pacific. But I guess in this case they were not, and instead were pretty much just left to their own, I don't know, free will, desires, whatever you want to call it. And as such, we get a kung fu martial arts story that I really, really liked. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, I enjoyed it the first time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said let's revisit it.
Yeah.
Something that I feel is really missing in the theater today is just this like the wuxia, wushu, that like fantastical like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon style of
hero
like, Chinese cinema.
Like,
where you have the like martial arts and they're just like using wire to traipse across landscapes and everything looks like a Dragon Ball Z movie. And we said it back then. Now, we said it back then before Dragon Ball Evolution existed. Then Dragon Ball Evolution existed. And I still say it well after Dragon Ball Evolution existed. Stephen Chow should have made a Dragon Ball Z movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And
yes.
that someone could have potentially saw this movie and then said, I can make Dragon Ball and made Dragon Ball Evolution.
Yeah.
Is one of the most ridiculous things I think a human being could conceive. And yet it happened. Stephen Chow would have destroyed Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
It would have been so good. But enough about Dragon Ball Z. Every name that I gave you is the official English name, I guess. I have no idea what their Chinese names are. I don't speak Chinese.
For the characters?
Yes.
I do want to say real quick, like with your comment about Dragon Ball Z, like I couldn't agree more because I was thinking about this as I was rewatching it. Like this movie has this perfect blend of goofiness and heart, and just that sentimentality that makes your heart sink at points and then makes you feel elevated, and it's build up of its characters. And so like thinking about that concept of Stephen Chow making a Dragon Ball Z movie and thinking about how well Stephen Chow was able to balance those elements, which I feel like are all super important elements in Dragon Ball Z. Is there any way that we can create a machine that we can just like look into other timelines and see if that happened?
The one that happened where he got it. And, oh man, ugh, if only. Did he do I forget the actual name of the movie, but did he do the Monkey King movie, like The Journey to the West, that had Jackie Chan and
is that is it Journey to the West? The big bad and something. What was the name of that movie? I think I know what you're talking about, name, but I feel like he was in it, wasn't he?
Was he in it? Maybe he was in it. I just remember that it was mostly like the big selling point was Jackie Chan and oh my god, I'm blanking on his name all of a sudden. The one, Jet Li.
Jet Li, yeah.
And
they were like the Iron. Oh, I know which movie you're talking about. I'm thinking about another movie, which was another movie that was kind of Western aesthetic inspired. I think we saw that one, right? That was
Mhm.
the one with that one guy from Super High. What was that Disney movie about the kid who had like Kurt Russell was his dad?
Super High, I think was
Super High.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, because he was the main character in that movie, right?
I think so.
And then
yeah.
he was just kind of sitting around. Yeah,
And it was like they gave you this big selling point, but then in the end, it was just more him. And I was like, where are Jet Li and Jackie Chan in
Yeah.
all of this?
well, they knew it. They knew they had to do that. They knew no one was gonna go see that movie for the 2010 version of Jimmy Olsen.
Killing me on that. But Sky High. Yeah.
Sky High. Yeah.
Anyway, so what was I gonna say? So there's so much slapstick humor that I think I forgot was kind of in the movie. Specifically, kind of parts where like when he starts to run away from the landlord lady.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he's just like running, and then he like looks behind him and he sees her, she's running, and then he just starts running faster, and then eventually they're like Looney Tunes running away.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that part so much. There's so many moments where it was. What is considered dry humor?
I would say dry humor is more of like the kind of like British humor where something is delivered in a way and in a tone that kind of makes it feel deadpan and like not. It doesn't seem like it's supposed to be humorous, but you're like, oh, I get it. I find that you find the humor in it more than you like sit there and guffaw and laugh at it.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about a scene in particular. We've been talking about the goofiness of this. So there is a scene where essentially there are three amongst the pigsty. There are three practicing martial artists who I wouldn't say necessarily that they're like intentionally in hiding, but they just don't, I guess, overtly showcase their skills. Though to a degree, some of them do some amazing feats where you're like, something's up with this person. And there's a scene where after they've thwarted the Axe Gang, the Axe Gang hires those two assassins, the harpist. And the harpist comes to the pigsty, and after they have swept those three dudes away, and then they realize the landlady, she's talked shit for the last time. Really so loud. I think that's the point where they realize that there's like another master, so they say, that lives in that community. And then you see both of them jump straight up into the air. And then I forgot this scene because in my mind I'm expecting them to just like land on the balcony and then open the door and attack. But then the shot just lingers on just like a part of the ground, and you see their feet come back down. And then in the middle, slowly, you see the landlord just gently glide. And then the look on his face cracks me up so hard because it looks like it was like this deadpan look. He just looked straight. He wasn't even looking at either one of them, just kind of like angled down as if he had something to say, but he wanted them to make the first move. And so they did. But that, I don't know what it is about that shot in particular. I was like, it's so like, I don't want to say underwhelming, but it's not just like in your face goofiness like the Looney Tunes legs turning and them running super fast, goofishly fast, but yeah, it set the tone.
Yeah, I love that. I love that part because it showed that like those two were stronger, but they had made decisions that prevented them from wanting to help when they could have much earlier. And that comes up. They're like the tenants are like, hey man, you could have done something about this, which is why they eventually do spur themselves into action. But it's funny because it's like it's hinted at that there might be something with the landlord early in the movie when he gets like beat up and like tossed out the window,
third story window,
and he just like bounces off of the building before landing, and dude goes to like poke him. He's like, get away from me. You're like, okay, so he can survive, and you've already seen the other dude who can like just pick up a whole bunch of weight. So you're like, oh, that dude's super strong.
Yeah, you're talking about the guy who picked up that like giant sack of what I only can assume was like rice or like
I think it was probably
something.
Like rice or something. Yeah,
and then he just picks it up with his foot and kicks it up in the air on top of this giant stack that he's already carrying on his back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, So something's going on here because the movie really isn't going out of its way immediately to say, hey, this is a martial arts like epic. I know it's called Kung Fu Hustle, but it doesn't really show you any real like Kung Fu until like kind of toward the middle of the movie. But also the movie moves at like a frenetic pace.
You know, dude, I was thinking the same thing, and it's actually kind of crazy to me because it's only like an hour 36 minutes. It's not a long movie, and it feels like so much happens in between beginning and end, but it also doesn't feel like it's so short that they don't do all of those elements and all of those layers justice. You know how some films feel like you try to put too much Oreo cream in between those cookies and it just didn't hold up.
You mean like Beyond Mega stuff?
Beyond Mega stuff. Beyond the Beyonders. Which I feel like is probably going to be an Oreo next year when Avengers Doomsday comes out.
It probably will.
Yeah.
Or it'll be like a Doctor Doom, like green, like mint chocolate.
Oh, don't do like just like a pistachio.
Well, the cream could be anything. I was talking about like the cookies themselves would be like green.
So
like the mint chocolate, like make them green.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I'm not an Oreo engineer.
I
don't know how you make Oreo cookies.
Can't wait till that job hits. Indeed.
The Oreo engineer.
Yeah, dude.
They got Oreo engineers for life, man. I think those dudes come in and day out, and they look at how we can make a new Oreo. They're like, Pop Rocks inside of it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good point. Although it makes me question sometimes, like, why did it take you so long to come up with these ideas?
Because an Oreo is enough. Honest to goodness, an Oreo is enough.
That's fair, I guess, but I don't know. I like to experiment sometimes.
They do too.
Selena Gomez.
Like, why? Like, well, you already have enough Oreo engineers. You had to go to Selena Gomez and be like, hey, Selena, what's your favorite flavors we can infuse into an Oreo? Don't think it tastes like Selena Gomez. It's flavors that Selena Gomez likes. And it's kind of racist because it's like Dolce de Leche. Horchata. You're like, okay. Be like, hey, Leroy, what's your favorite Oreo? Well, I'd like a fried chicken and greens Oreo myself.
Yeah, with a little bit of watermelon in that aftertaste.
Goodness. But, so transitioning from that. Yeah, like it felt like it was just moving like boom. It was moving in a pace. I was like, did it move like this when I watched it the first time? I thought there was stuff happening in between.
More, right? Yeah.
But no, it was just how it was moving, and then the next thing I know, like it kind of felt like it slowed down a little bit after that like fight. Then it was like, okay, we need to get everybody together, slow some stuff down.
Which fight might you be referring to? The one that takes place between the landlords
and yeah. So it slows itself down just a little tiny bit so that it can give you more like the X gang doing goofy stuff, and then like getting Sing over to like the hell. As far as I don't know where in China. It was just a red sky with guards. I don't know why those guards.
I love the energy that they brought into that movie and how they displayed emotions visually. You know, like even when the Axe Gang I think first came to the Pigsty, you could see that there was this the way they had split the frame, and that you have the tenants on the left hand side and the sky is like bright and blue. And then as the Axe Gang is walking up, you know, you have this overcast is drawing over them. It's like they're just carrying bad weather with them. They're carrying bad omens with them, which I thought was like super cool. Real quick, with the fight though that happened before, basically between the harpist and those three martial artists that even triggered that in the first place, wild.
It was a really cool fight.
Yeah,
and the way that I wouldn't even never in my mind would I think to have two martial artists who can utilize a harp and do like multiple different types of damage through playing music.
Yeah,
it was like I was
nuts.
Like, dang.
Nuts, dude. And the way that they shot it with the first martial artist was so cool because it was so subtle and it built up the way they're tracking him and that cat.
Dude.
Yeah, like the cat jumping off the roof
and doing
and it
like
goes
a
out of frame.
silhouette.
You see the shadow. Yeah, you see the shadow and it just gets cut in half. You're like, oh my god. I do. It's unfortunate that, well, I guess all three of those. Spoiler alert. All three of those guys ended up passing.
And spoiler alert, I said that in the synopsis.
Oh.
Spoiler alert,
Well,
like 30 minutes ago. But I do wish he got the fight.
Yeah. But yeah.
Because that was kind of messed up that they
Mhm.
got him from behind and then the other two were able to like defend themselves better.
Yeah. There was a shot, though, in that fight that, dude, if we ever make an album, I want to recreate it. There's the shot, so when they're fighting the tailor, and the tailor has the braces on both of his forearms, and they break it. So when they stun him in that moment, there's this shot where it starts off kind of like a medium shot, and you have the harpist that's just sitting cross-legged on nothing with the harp on his lap, and the other one standing up, but he's kind of slightly turned and angled like this.
As the youth would say, they were ore farming. Yeah.
And then, like, when they do that next move, the way that the camera draws back, and like they never move, like they never adjust. The dude's still standing there like this, and I'm like, dude, that reminds me of like some kind of Bone Thugs and Harmony shit. I was like, damn, yeah, man, Kung Fu Hustle inspired by
It's 1989 Eternal.
It's 1999.
Bum, 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 bum.
Tell me what you gonna do when I Kung Fu game on high.
So that dude, the tailor, was the original Mandarin.
What?
Because he had the 10 rings.
Oh my gosh! I thought you meant that there was like some kind of Iron
No,
Man
like
in
he was the
70s and he played him. I was like, whoa! How did I not? Yeah. No, that's a good. I was thinking about Shang-Chi as well when he. Like, oh yeah,
He's like, oh,
cool.
Somebody watched Kung Fu.
Yeah. The wherever they picked up Mr. Frog, Happy Leif Erikson Day, dude, was hellish. Yeah, to say the least.
It was so crazy.
To say the least.
But before that, can we talk about the X Gang themselves?
Of course.
The X Gang. I don't. So at the beginning, so going all the way back to the very beginning, the police are getting like chewed out by some random dude who thinks he's like a crime mob boss. I don't know who he's the crime mob of, but he gets outside and like, I guess because the X Gang bought everybody else out, so they come in and he's just like, yeah, we bought everybody out and you're about to die. And Brother Sum just starts dancing, and I can't tell if he thinks he's dancing to the music that we're listening to, or if he's just like laying something in his head.
That's
because it's like they were dancing and they were all on beat to each other, but they were not on beat to the song that was playing.
Oh, in the scene that followed it, when it starts off as just Brother Sum, and then everyone starts to come in, and then it's the whole group. I
just kept like waiting for it. I was like, are we
like 5 BPM off? just a little bit.
They were just like,
but dude, also though, man, this was also. I find myself that there's oftentimes these scenes or shots that I will rewind over and over again, and it takes me so long to get through a movie because of it. But when the guy who thought he was leading them starts running away after his group starts getting fired on, the dude who takes the axe, and then that slow motion shot when he leans down and he throws that axe, I kept rewinding it, because it's just so funny to me that that's like his knee-jerk reaction. Me personally,
I'd go for the head, but
I mean, I probably wouldn't even think to be throwing an axe at the dude. Like, it wouldn't have, unless I was just designated the axe thrower of the X Gang.
Wait, but you're the X Gang.
True. But, like, are we to assume that all of them have the ability to throw axes?
My assumption is that you have to be a master at the axe to be a part of the X Gang.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
So, like, I would imagine, like, we saw the inside of their, like, hideout. But I would assume somewhere else in the hideout is, like, one of those, like, axe throwing, like, places that we can go to nowadays. There's just a whole bunch of targets. And, like, they just are practicing throwing axes all types of different ways to get bullseyes.
Because that one was, dude, he was clutch. And actually, the funny thing is I kept looking at this, and it looked like the initial throw would have missed, but then somehow when it cuts to like the overhead shot of the guy running away, it's actually like perfectly in line, almost like it curved. Like this one has those sort of wanted assassins.
He's got wanted abilities.
Yeah, he can throw the axe and curve it around corners and shoot this motherfucker, and he just cuts the dude's leg off. And it was just that is clutch. That's the type of guy you want by your side.
What happened to that dude?
I don't know. He
He
never shows up again, actually.
I was just thinking about myself, like, after you explained on it, I was like, he was cool. What happened? He never shows up again.
Like a study abroad program or something like. Just
that was racking my brain as I was like, he didn't fight the martial artists when they come into the place the first time. So
where did he go?
Brother Soap's just like, all right, you did that one cool thing. We're done with you. You can go on back. Maybe he got drafted for the war. I don't know, but he's gone. That scene was really kind of just crazy because, in a sense, they were getting rid of rude people. So from a not knowing anything, if you never knew anything about the X gang, you may kind of think like, oh, are these like the good guys doing good gang versus bad gang activities? But then the rest of the movie leads you to be like, okay, no, they are
just straight up assholes.
They're not good people.
Straight up.
And that other dude just also sucked. So this was just bad gang versus bad gang. And when Brother Son basically says like we don't kill women, and then just let her start to walk away, and then just blast her with a shotgun in the back. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
that was
She
unnecessary.
flew, man. She flew.
I mean,
that was like she was diving in home base.
It was like 1940s, and he had I don't know shotguns.
Yeah,
but
it was like one of those you would see in like Call of Duty Zombies.
That looked like a modern shotgun.
Yeah.
It did not look like something that was in World War II.
Man, that's straight Chrono King type shit. But yeah, he just, another thing though about, I think with the choreography, the choreography of the film is beautiful, and it does make me miss films like that, like being able to go to theaters and seeing films like that. But it also makes me think, and I can't help but do this a lot of times in these situations, while I know these are fictional films, I think about it in the context of like real life and knowing myself, and I'm like, there's just a certain point where you see somebody beating up all your niggas, where you just like, I'm not gonna help, right? Like, this dude kicked somebody in the head so hard that he not only was launched, like jettisoned several meters, but he was spinning while happening. I've never seen anything like that in my life. There's no UFC fight where I've ever seen like that in my life. So if I see that, I have to assume that I'm not not helping.
That leads me to ask you now, because you just revealed something to me.
What did I reveal?
Where would be the stopping point of us getting beat up, where you would be like, okay, I now have to leave?
I think that's because let me say it this way. For you guys, that's different. I would just assume that if I was part of an axe gang, we probably are more just like coworkers.
So you mean like loose associates?
Yeah, we're probably just like so I shouldn't say my niggas. I shouldn't say. I wouldn't call that. What do you say? Yeah, I'm not, dude. Ted told my boss when I took a 20-minute break, I'm not about to go on the line for this dude. Like,
I got you. So if you're in like a video game gang and like the protagonist came and just started like whooping up on people, and you weren't like in the front of the line, you just start walking away.
Yeah, but if it's like you, Andrew, like if it's my boys, then
okay.
Yeah, then I guess that's just the day I die. But I just definitely can't. I can't see myself doing it for a dude who gets mad that I like microwave broccoli in the galley. Like, yeah, I'm not stepping in.
Yeah, I don't know why you get mad at that. Like, broccoli's good.
I guess I say that from experience, but
okay, well, I'm not gonna get into that. So I'll get back to the beast. So Scene goes into this like jail asylum thing with a full bag of tools that get taken from him within seconds of getting inside of this place. So he didn't need them. because he gets the beast out anyway.
Yeah.
And I guess him and the beast just walk back out. We don't see the aftermath at that point. He's just back at the hideout / casino. And the funniest thing about this movie is it really goes out of its way, and I think it's for the comedic effect, obviously, to like take your expectation and just like kick it, just,
completely subvert it.
Like it wants to subvert it as much as possible.
Yeah.
So like each time you see a stronger martial artist, this martial artist is just normal Joe that you see on the bus. You're like, oh, okay, that guy.
Yeah.
But this man apparently can just, like, he was just letting them hit him, and he's just like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny because it's not like he was invincible, because they did like make him start bleeding.
Right. I was thinking the same thing. It's like, dang, this dude is like likes pain that much. It's not. Yeah. So he's not invulnerable. Obviously, you hit something, but he can just take it.
He's just taking it.
Yeah, man. He looks like somebody though that you would walk past walking into a gas station to get like some Reese cups.
Like, he was so nondescript that if he committed a crime, you'd be like, he's between 5'1" and like 6'5", 100 and like 200 pounds.
Yeah,
he might have had some sandals on. I think he had sandals on. He was bald, I think, and I cannot tell you.
He had a little bit of thin wispies around the jagged jugular, but other than that,
he had like a very like a ghostly Sherman Hemsley going on. I think I don't remember too much about it.
Okay, we want a ghostly
Sherman Hemsley. Yeah. So he had the Sherman Hemsley going on, but because it was very wispy and thin and white, it was like a ghost. Yeah.
Could you imagine going to a barber?
You hook me up with
dog.
Well, first off, it's crazy to be going to a barber and asking for the Sherman Hemsley.
Yeah.
What to go on top of it?
Yeah, ghostly
Sherman
Sherman
Hemsley. Ghostly Sherman Hemsley. Like, oh, I got you.
Yeah, say less.
But he was so nondescript. I mean, all of them were like, you wouldn't look at the landlady and the landlord and be like, they're expert martial artists. So it gives you all of these like people you like, they can't fight. Oh, turns out they're the strongest. And then at the very end, Stephen Chow brings your expectation back. Says, I am now Neo. This is what a martial artist would look like.
And dude, it's like, not only were they not people that would you look at and give a second guess to, or a second glance to think, oh yeah, you're definitely a martial arts master. But it's like their special and unique abilities amongst each other, it like went a step further to be like, that's not the ability I would not only would I have not seen you as a master, I would have not expected that as a master that would be your ability. Like, how many cigarettes do you smoke a day? And your ability is like lung capacity that you can just
I guess it's because she smokes so much that she can,
but like
she's constantly inhaling.
But typically, like, you would think that somebody who's smoking a lot, like if they go for a run, like a 3-mile run, they're not about to have a good time.
I mean, she also does a lot of, like, she uses her diaphragm like a lot in her scream.
She does have, it does, like, she's almost
she's
like
always
Puff.
like, she's like always pretty much like singing, like, it's almost like an operatic type way. Like, she really breathes from her diaphragm. Her stomach goes in, her rib cage expands, and then she just screams. And it's kind of, I mean, yeah, you could say it's like stereotypical that the person who can scream very loud is a woman, but in this case, I think it just worked. Now, I will say, the Faded Lovers, I think they were called, their abilities were not like compatible really
with each other.
I don't know what you would make compatible with screaming very loud, but I wouldn't expect it to be the rubber man.
Yeah,
just kind of like
trouble man.
So when they were like punching him, and he was just like redirecting their like blows,
and it even had that cartoony like boom.
And then I guess it like that was their specialty, but I guess you're also still like a martial artist, so they were doing like martial arts, but then they had like special moves. Yeah, but I guess she had special moves. He didn't really have like a.
Yeah, I guess he didn't really have like a stretchy, like he didn't clasp a pillar and then she stretch him along one side and then have like somebody else put like a cannonball in the middle and then like use him as a catapult. Like, I guess that didn't ever happen. No. But he did there was, I guess, the closest thing I can think of is during the fight with the harpist, is when he's almost just like floating like a feather at one point during that fight.
I guess my problem was that everybody kind of can do that, like
the like crouching tiger. Yeah.
I just assumed that was like an extension of that.
That one, yeah, that's a good point. But at the same time, there was something about the way that he was floating where it was so. 'Cause with the others, it almost kind of seems like it's their ability to propel themselves, and then they just kind of glide. Mm-hmm. Whereas he was just falling straight down, but it looked like somebody was rocking him to sleep almost.
You could possibly be just somehow like making himself lighter than, I wouldn't say air, because that means he'd go up, but like he was, like a feather.
That'd be kind of crazy though if he could make himself do that.
Like fly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like he couldn't control which direction he could just.
Well, that would suck. Oh, I can fly. How can you fly? I just float. Mm-hmm. I can't control that after part, but
yeah, that would suck.
The fight in the casino.
Oh man.
So they were already there, which was kind of crazy in and of itself because it didn't seem like they should have been able to, but they were there, and the fight begins. He can just take their hits, even though they're given like some prime like tag team, like combos, and then she realizes they can't really like fight him because he hasn't revealed his ability yet. We think his ability is just he's super strong. We find out eventually that he can turn into a frogman, but before that, he's just kind of taking their hits. So she does the bell move, which I thought was really cool. Like just hitting it in different ways to like break it eventually, and then using her screaming ability to amplify. Because he took it the first time when she just did it by herself, but then like she did it with the bell as a megaphone, and it was like that's why I said Dragon Ball Z, because it felt like a Kamehameha. And he was like, he took the first one, but then he like she went Kaioken and hit him with like another one, and it just like sent him off like Vegeta. And he was like, okay, I see how this is gonna go. And he then, I don't know, for some reason, Sing has been throughout this just kind of like in the way. Mm-hmm. He's not really like it's clear he's supposed to be protagonist because way too much is happening around him, but he's also not doing nearly anything worth anything. But he's brought everybody somehow together, despite not really doing too much. Mm-hmm. And we see that he has this like flashbacks of helping this like little girl. He eventually does put two and two together that the little girl has grown up to become the ice cream cart
vendor
girl.
Yeah.
And
Can we? They peed on that boy, man.
They did. They beat the
peed
shit
on that
out
boy.
of him too. They beat him up and then just group peed on him.
Yeah, 7 of them at least.
I don't know how my psyche could have taken that as a child.
Yeah, you probably. I guess you would have become Sing. I mean, he seemed like such a nice kid up until that point, and then I just kind of took it like that was the event, that was the inciting event that turned him into this wannabe thug, this wannabe criminal, because he got peed on by 7 dudes.
But he never pees on anybody.
Because deep down he's a good dude, and he knows this says a lot. That says a lot about a person if you pee on somebody.
I mean, 1920s China, I guess. I don't know.
You're more susceptible.
Just beat him up and then pee on him. I don't know. So she somehow kept a
oh my gosh, dude, the lollipop?
A lollipop for 20 years. And he smacks it and it hits a wall. Mm-hmm. That thing shatters into a trillion pieces.
Wasn't it still wrapped?
But it was somehow, it was still wrapped. Uh-huh. She had never taken it outside of wrapping. He shattered it so much that it went in way too many ways. She somehow reassembles this entire lollipop. And it stayed together for like a second. I don't know what magic she has, but it stayed together for a second, then it fell apart. And she's like, okay, that was probably a stupid thing to do. But she really wanted him to understand that she was happy that he defended her, because I guess they decided to stop beating up on her when they beat the crap out of him and then peed on him and left.
That was like the moment where they realized, like, I think I'm done.
Yeah, I guess when you pee on somebody, you're like, oh, I'm not really trying to hang around.
Yeah, I think that's like a threshold where as a bully, it's like, damn, I think I took it too far. And that's when you probably like, I'll just start getting better grades.
I don't think they
help,
did.
like, get into
I think
the
they
Ivy
were.
League
I think they
school.
were quite okay with peeing on him.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just we peed on him. That's a wrap. What are you gonna do? Get back up?
I
Like,
mean,
you gonna get back up and start fighting somebody when you got peed on?
Nah, you can't.
No,
Because like even if you win,
Oh.
even if you end up turning the tide,
you got
the dude
peed
got
on.
peed on.
You gonna smell like pee after beating somebody up? No.
Yeah, no one's taking you out for ice cream after that.
You're done about that. Get home and get cleaned up. So he decides to finally have his change of heart, and he helps the landlords. I shouldn't even say help, because they put themselves into. That's about that. They put themselves essentially into a Chinese finger trap of like submission holds, and he didn't so much help as he just like annoyed the beast, who decided to just stop fighting them altogether and proceed to essentially kill him.
Yeah.
If I mean,
it doesn't even make sense. That
so you've seen throughout the movie that for some reason he has he's Wolverine. There's a remarkable healing factor that no matter what seems to happen to him, he eventually gets his way out of like the hurt and heals far faster than anybody else would, while also surviving things that no one really should. Even though kind of the landlady did too, considering that like when they were Looney Tunes running, she jumped over the truck when he like continued to Looney Tune drift up underneath the truck. She smacked into a billboard, and she somehow came out of that like pretty fine.
Is that move called the just take the old records off the shelf? Like I think about, because the way he was running, he was completely on his side and his legs were still turning. But I'm thinking about is the Risky Business, or maybe I'm thinking about Home Alone, and then Macaulay Culkin was dancing. But it's that move where a lot of times in movies they'll shoot it from like an overhead shot where the person's on the ground on their side and they're just like they're walking. They're like just kicking their legs. And
you mean like
their body in a circle, like clockwise?
The curly?
That's what that's called?
Yeah, because the Three Stooges, Curly used to do it. When he would be on the side, and he would be running. Yeah.
Oh, all right. That's a much simpler name. That's a much simpler name.
Yes, yeah, that's essentially what he was doing. But instead of going around in a circle, he's actually going forward.
Yes.
They show him in like after he got his lips bit by a snake and several knives placed into him. He is in, and I don't know if this should ever be a thing, because it seems like a very dangerous place to exist. But for some reason, this city has one singular area of which they have lights for traffic. And on top of that is just this like cylinder that people can just fit inside of. And I was like, that seems like a not that shouldn't exist. Not in the case of like it shouldn't physically exist, but like I would imagine like a mentally unstable person could just be up in there and cause some like damage, because they're pretty protected inside of like a metal cylinder while having like very finite visibility to them from the outside.
Yeah.
But he like, I guess he has to like beat stuff up to get himself feeling better. I don't know, but he like beats the inside of it up and then like leaves. No one ever questions that. And you know, I feel like we see it again later and it looks like it's back to normal. So maybe he like reformed it. But needless to say, the beast does things that I've never seen before. First off, he was kicking him around, and then he like he kicked him up into the air and then back down, and then just started punching him in the head repeatedly. And
Into
his
the ground.
head, only his head,
Mm-hmm.
went into the ground.
Yes.
And at first he seemed like, I mean, he got hit twice or 3 times and then acted like nothing. And was like raising his hand and stuff. And I would have thought at that point, if I was the Beast, I'm like, okay, maybe there's something here. He said, I don't care. Punched him some more until he was like, yeah, he's got to be dead. And then I forget what happens directly after that.
Does he like, was that when he picks up the little piece of wood and he hits him in the head? Like, he basically just this like little last act of defiance, and then the Beast just puts the little coup de grace.
He
For
does.
the Landlords.
But that's what I'm saying. Like in between, like what I forget what got his attention away from seeing. I think
I don't know.
Brother Sum came, like yelled at him about something, and he turned to get at Brother Sum. Or no, was it the dude with the glasses?
Oh, the little skeezy lawyer.
Yeah, that he like
Snake in the
just
Air character.
turned and backhanded his head around, which was whew.
Yeah, that was, he gave him the spinny drill hand.
He just gave him a spinning back fist in his head.
And I don't think it was like, because it wasn't just like a complete 180, right? Like it went around, came back full circle, and then went around again to show you that. So maybe
I got 540.
3. Is that? Yeah.
Like a 360 plus a
180.
180. 540.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I played enough Tony Hawk. That sounds about right. And then, then the landlords just jump back up after the whooping they got, grab Sing, run away. Then they place him in a cocoon. And while he's in this healing cocoon, they are preparing for the Beast to show up. Beast shows up. He seems to sense something, but he can't tell exactly what's going on. Then the cocoon opens up, I guess, and out comes the one Sing.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's like full like Neo.
He's saying code.
He's ready. He's dressed in all white. So that tells you that he's pure and he is of a higher quality than he was before.
Yes.
And they talk about how his chi flow was disrupted beforehand. Now it's undisrupted and he's now truly at his peak.
Which is really cool because it's something that they had been hinting at pretty much the entire movie, with flashbacks of him as a kid and the homeless guy that gave him the like little book
about the Buddhist poem.
Yeah.
And so he starts to fight first he fights the Axe Gang. And that was basically like Streets of Rage on easy mode for him. So he pretty much just mollywopped the entire group. I don't know why they continued chasing after him. Much like to your story earlier about like Ted and the boys.
Uh-huh.
If Ted and the boys start getting whooped, I'm just gonna be like, I'm good. I don't think you see what's happening before you. I don't think you're gonna worry about me walking away. So I'm just gonna walk off.
Yeah.
But they all got whooped. He starts to fight the Beast. They have a Goku versus Vegeta battle. Or he's pretty much got the upper hand until the Beast pulls out frog mode. So it turns out he's actually like a sage ninja from Naruto. And he's got like the sage jutsu in him, so he can, the sage chakra in him, so he can start bloating up like a frog. And then his thighs get real big and ripped. And he just launches himself up into the air.
And like sometimes, like with each charge, he just puts like a larger indentation into the ground. Like he just digs a deeper hole to launch out of.
Because he was key charging.
Yeah.
But first he did the sumo headbutt that E Honda does in Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And that does some damage. But then he decides to start jumping around for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually he does key charge up enough to do a sumo headbutt straight into the sky. And he comes back down, but he's fine. He's like, I've launched this man up into the stratosphere. He will splat when he comes back down, if he even comes back down.
Uh-huh.
And it's at this point that Sing unlocks his final technique,
Yeah.
which is the Buddhist palm. So he sees the surroundings, and they all look beautiful, and he's like, "This is the heavens." And then he starts to come back down, and he, instead of freaking out, he puts his hand in like prayer position, and then he just starts to spin directly downward. He catches on fire because he's going so fast downward.
Hold on, though. I'm sorry. Not to take your... I thought he stepped on an eagle before he did that.
He did step on an eagle before.
Okay.
I didn't put that, but he does step on an eagle when he's up in the air, and then he comes back down. So he is on fire, and he looks down. For some reason, Beast is not moved because he doesn't know what's going on.
I thought he like couldn't. It was like the gravity. I don't know, like something about the force. His aura was sort of keeping him. It kind of seemed that way. Like it kind of
at first. I mean, like before, like he was just kind of looking up at him.
Oh.
Like when he first landed,
was just a straight Dragon Ball Z move, right? Yeah. Where you just watch the person charge and get to their final form.
He was just kind of looking up at it, like,
yeah. Like, how's this gonna end?
And so finally, he reaches out with one hand and unleashes a ki blast, the likes of which had not been seen before, because he puts an indentation in the ground of his hand, even though he's still far up into the sky.
Yeah. Hitherto undreamt of, man. Yeah, it was one of those moves that makes you talk like Doctor Strange from
Infinity War. Like flattened the Beast. And then he lands very gently. And the Beast, because he's got this like he can really take hits for some reason. He gets back up and he's about to attack again. But then the second Buddhist palm comes out. And it's like in One Punch Man when Genos is fighting Saitama. And Saitama unleashes like the normal punch on him, but nothing happens to Genos. But then like the mountain behind him explodes, and in this case, a giant handprint goes through the side of the building behind the Beast. But it turns out that he actually didn't attack at the Beast; he attacked like right next to his head, and that stops the Beasts. And he says, "Like, what was that?" Because he thought he was the greatest martial artist he'd seen everything. And he says, I could teach you if you'd like. And I don't know if he becomes his pupil after that, but he does like just kind of renounce his ways. And so the landlords, they make a theory that Sing would have been the age of their child had he survived. Sing, meanwhile, does say that he's an orphan. So I guess the hint is that
those are his parents.
Those are his parents. But nothing comes of that afterwards because he just kind of leaves, and then the end of the movie happens where he's working at the candy shop that his partner Bone was working at.
Yeah.
And he gets a little bit of a happily ever after with the mute girl who's the ice cream vendor. And
that makes sense as to why he was able to do what he could, and why he was one of those like 1 in a million genius martial artists that they'd been alluding to the entire movie. I mean, if it's going to be related to anybody, it's
probably
Rubber
two
Band Man,
master
Always in Trouble
martial
Man.
artists. Yeah.
T.I.
But
ultimately enjoy your rewatch.
I did. I really, really enjoyed it. It made me really miss that period of time where it felt like there was a bit more experimenting in the movies that were coming out. And it's not to say that like that doesn't happen now, but like back then there wasn't that like streaming or Netflix alternative. It was either something came out direct to DVD, or maybe just like on like HBO or something like that, or it had to be in the theater.
Yeah.
And nowadays, honestly, I think nowadays something like Kung Fu Hustle probably would have been a Netflix movie, and that annoys me because people really are making an effort to not go to the movie theaters now. And as a result, it's making, and I'm not trying to defend like the big five in any way and say that like, well, poor Disney, people aren't going to see Elio. Like what I'm getting at is that at this point, it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation where we're going to see fewer and fewer of those type of movies come to theaters because it's going to be like, you guys don't go see it. So I'm only going to put out a superhero movie. And then people get mad that only superhero movies are coming out.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't have both ways. Either support movie theaters so that the stuff that you want to see can come out, or be stuck with the fact that they think the only things that are successful are going to be superhero movies, big like Hollywood type horror movies, or like just your big like summer action movie. Those are the only things you see that'll come out, because they're not going to take the chance. It's just like in the video game industry, where during the PS2 era, we had all of these like experimental like games coming out of places like Capcom, or coming out of Konami, or coming out of even like Microsoft and Sony. And nowadays, if it ain't something that is for sure going to get them back their return on investment, you're not going to see them even attempt to put it out. So it's going to be just Last of Us Part 1 remake, finalized new edition. And it's just going to be that
is like
because,
the last part of the time.
yes, because they know that sells. They can't experiment on something like a Hollow Knight Silk Song or Oreo of the Wisp, because they don't know if that'll sell. But they know The Last of Us sells.
Yeah.
So that's what you're going to see. So you get mad at them, but then enough people aren't buying the small things that they are trying to sell you. So you're seeing that now in movies. I brought up Elio. Elio tanked. And it's crazy to think that a Pixar or Disney movie would tank, but it tanked. I didn't even know it existed. It's the first time hearing it, right?
Yes.
My first time hearing of it today. Only because I was playing the New York Times crossword, and it was a clue on crossword. And I said, what the heck is it? Like, it was like a 2025 Pixar movie about aliens coming to Earth. I was
This
like,
year?
It was a 2025 Pixar. It came out in June. It came out last month.
What?
Yes. It had it's like $100 million budget or something like that, and only did like 10 million or something.
Oh my God. Holy crap.
Super tanked.
Holy crap. But it's all of these things, especially the business aspect, it's so multifaceted, because now, I think to your point earlier about essentially all of these companies, these production companies now want their slice of the streaming pie. So you have Paramount getting their own streaming service, and MGM getting their own premium, like, in basically companies that I don't need a MGM specific app. Why would I be paying for that? Even if it's like a few bucks, like it doesn't help with anything. But like all of that is more money out of people's pocket, more money when, like, as inflation, looking at the cost of things getting higher and higher, and people's rate of pay doesn't typically increase relative to the rate of inflation. So you have locked these people in who probably have all of these streaming services, and yeah, to them it's probably thinking, after spending $100 a month on having your Prime and your Netflix and Disney Plus with the Hulu and Max bundle, like, how can I afford the, especially even if you have a significant other or you're paying for a family, like all the money that goes into that, it's
so people don't go out to the movie theaters because they think it's expensive. And so it really is just like it's a circle of loss at this point. And the only way it could, I was just sitting here reminiscing doesn't bring it back. I don't know what helps that cycle get broken. But that isn't a conversation for another day.
Oh man,
I want to thank you all again for listening to us ramble on about Kung Fu Hustle, a movie that I really enjoyed, as well as movies and movie industry as a whole. Please do like, share, and subscribe.
You hear it probably on plenty of other channels about, it's a small thing for you means a lot to us, and it really does. We do appreciate you all listening, and don't be shy, engage. drop a few movies maybe that you would like for us to go ahead and check out and get our opinions on there in the comments when you have an opportunity. And we would love to talk about those films with you, make new episodes. I mean, I guess ultimately there's never going to be any shortage of content, right?
There are a lot of movies.
There's a lot of movies. There's a lot of movies. We could do one every day and it wouldn't matter. But again, yeah, we very much appreciate you all being here and listen to Kung Fu Hustle. So, signing off, this is Farron.
And this is Damon.
And this has been yet another episode of Panharmonicon Studios Presents
A podcast.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening.
Panharmonicon presents a podcast.